Let's find out for fashion items from the old days that are no longer in use. And trust me, after hearing about these wardrobe weirdos, you, LL, be grateful you can just throw on jeans and a t-shirt without requiring an engineering degree or a small construction crew to get dressed in the morning. First up, we have spats. And no, these aren't what happens when couples fight about who forgot to take out the trash. Spats were basically fancy ankle warmers for your shoes that became the ultimate look at me, I have money accessory of the early 1900s. Picture this. You've got your regular shoes, but apparently they weren't fancy enough. So someone decided to wrap them in what looked like tiny fabric leg warmers that buttoned up the side, these cloth or leather coverings stretched from your instep to your ankle, usually in white, gray, or tan. And they were held in place with a strap that went under your shoe like some kind of footwear straitjacket. Spats were the height of fashion from about 1910 to 1930. When every well-dressed gentleman strutted around looking like he was wearing tiny fabric casts on his ankles. They were supposedly practical, too, protecting your shoes and socks from mud and dust. Which makes sense when you realize that streets back then were basically obstacle courses of horse manure and questionable puddles. But here's the thing about spats, they took forever to put on, required daily cleaning, and made you look like you were perpetually recovering from a very minor ankle injury. Once cars became more common and streets got cleaner, people realized they could just, wipe their shoes and call it a day. Plus, the casual fashion revolution of the 1940s made spats look about as relevant as a top hat at a pool party. Now let's talk about the bustle, which was basically a fashionable way to smuggle a small ottoman under your dress. This contraption was all about giving women that coveted shelf butt look that apparently screamed, I am both elegant and could probably balance a tea service on my rear end. The bustle was essentially a wire, whalebone, or steel framework that tied around the waist and created this dramatic projection from the lower back and hips. Imagine wearing a collapsible camping chair backwards and under your skirt, except it's designed to make you look like you're smuggling a watermelon in your petticoats. The bustle had two major moments in fashion history. The first bustle period was from 1870 to 1875, followed by an even more dramatic revival from 1883 to 1889, when apparently women decided the first version wasn't ridiculous enough. These things could extend up to 18 inches from the body, turning every doorway into a strategic navigation challenge and making sitting down an exercise in geometric problem solving. The bustle eventually fell out of favor because, shockingly, women got tired of wearing furniture and realized they might actually want to, move freely through the world without requiring a building permit for their backside. Then we have culottes, which were revolutionary for being pants that were desperately trying to convince everyone they were actually a skirt. These wide, divided skirts were the ultimate compromise garment for women who wanted the freedom of pants, but lived in a society that thought women-s legs were basically mythical creatures that should never be acknowledged. Culottes looked like skirts from a distance, but were actually split down the middle, giving women the radical ability to straddle a bicycle or climb stairs without performing acrobatic feats. Culottes hit their stride from the 1900s through the 1930s, particularly popular among the sporty set who wanted to play tennis or ride bicycles without their skirts flying up and causing Victorian gentlemen to faint into their mustaches. They were made from practical fabrics like wool or cotton, cut full and wide to maintain the illusion of skirt-like modesty while secretly being pants in disguise. The problem with culottes was that they satisfied absolutely no one. They were unpractical enough for true athletes and were unfashionable enough for fashion-forward women. Once actual women's pants became socially acceptable, culottes became about as relevant as a chocolate teapot. Finally, we have the periwig, which was basically what happened when someone looked at their natural hair and thought, you know what this needs? To be completely replaced with something that looks like it was harvested from a very fancy sheep. The periwig, or full wig, was an elaborate hairpiece made from human hair, horse hair, or goat hair that completely covered the wearer as natural hair and often reached down to the shoulders or beyond. These magnificent hair monuments were popular from about 1660 to 1800, reaching peak ridiculousness in the 18th century when they became so tall and elaborate that doorways had to be redesigned and special carriages were built to accommodate them. Periwigs required daily powdering with starch, regular professional maintenance, and careful storage on special wig stands. They were also incredibly expensive, hot, heavy, and attracted every louse within a 5-mile radius. The periwig finally died out, partly due to a French powder tax in 1795, but mostly because people realized that wearing what was essentially a small mammal on their head was actually the pinnacle of human achievement. Plus, the whole French Revolution thing made ostentatious displays of wealth seem like a questionable life choice. So there you have it for fashion items that prove our ancestors had some truly creative ways to make getting dressed as complicated as possible. Sometimes fashion evolution really is just common sense winning out over elaborate nonsense.